Hey, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. Our first question will go to Greg Hunter.
So Bob, just your reaction. What are your emotions now as you're getting ready for this weekend?
Coach, you're muted. There we go.
So I don't know if you heard me, Bob, but just your reactions and your emotions as you get ready for this weekend.
Depends who I'm talking to, Greg.
Okay, you're talking to us, just us.
I just did a deal with Tony down there, and we did nothing but kind of screw around. I don't know, man. I think there's certain things that happen. When I think about my losing my mother to cancer, it's not very pleasant. And that seems to come up a lot. This is what I've done pretty much my whole life. I just did an interview with George Von Benko, and George, when I was a GA, George would do the pregame show, and we sat down there on those metal bleachers, if you remember that. Metal bleachers, that was the equipment room, which is now going to be a club for our alumni, whatever. But that was a equipment room, and we sat outside the equipment room and did the pregame deal. So, I don't know. I try to worry about the things that I need to worry about, and the other things I just kind of let other people talk about it and worry about it.
If you have a question, use the raised hand. We'll go to Justin.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the honor, first off.
Congratulations to you. You're in Hawaii, huh?
I wish. Hey, you mentioned the year being a GA, and obviously that was kind of your start into the coaching world. What was it like for you as a GA under Coach Gardner? Did that year fortify your thoughts of wanting to be a coach? Just kind of take me back, to that year. What was it like being a GA?
Well, I was sort of used to it to a degree because, my dad had his camp, and I coached at the camp. I was one of the coaches for quite a long time. So being around my dad, Ed McCluskey, the coaches that were there, Terry Leggett, I learned a lot just watching and helping those guys and that. And then, when Coach Gardner asked me to help him, I was excited about it, but it's a different deal. I was really just coaching my teammates.
Right.
I was done. I think Bacon and I were done, but Maurice was still there, and Doc Bostic was still there, and a bunch of the guys that we played 30 some games a year were there. So it's a little bit different. I try to help Joe Frizz as much as I possibly could, because Joe, I think importantly wanted help, but just to try to get have him understand what was about to happen and Lowe's. So I did spend quite a bit of time, more probably with Joe than Lowe's. It's just trying to help, just trying to do, whatever Coach Garner wanted me to do.
You've told the story before that, right before you became a GA, you had to try out with the 76ers. And so you kind of got back into town late, I guess, right? Got enrolled in school at the last minute.
Mhm.
You ever stop and wonder, like, what if, that timing just hadn't worked out just right? If if you didn't get to be a GA that year, or didn't get into coaching, how things may have turned out differently for you, or maybe they wouldn't have. I don't know.
Well, obviously, I don't know either. I know that, I've been blessed. Because of my dad's camp and because of, I think, the respect that uh, all those guys had for him. It wasn't just like out there coaching like, 7 and 8 year olds. And the people who came through there, virtually every college coach in Ohio, which is there's a lot, came through that camp at one time or another.
Right.
So I think I knew those guys, which opened up a lot of opportunities for me. I had opportunities to go to like at the D3 schools and maybe a D2 school and be an assistant coach. And but the opportunity to stay here and coach at this level was very enticing.
Right.
Let's go to Kevin Kinder.
Coach, has getting this honor allowed you to reconnect with some people that you haven't talked to in a while? I know, honestly, you've got connections and everything all over, between recruiting and going to the tournaments and all those things. But has it allowed you to reconnect with some people that maybe from distant past or that you haven't talked to in a while?
Yeah. I spent the weekend with George Carl at the Final Four. George brought his, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Seattle. I think he was at Seattle then. He brought him to Cincinnati and they spent a week or whatever it was, a week and a half. It's in Cincinnati. They worked out in the arena. And so I got to spend quite a bit of time with George, and not just George, but the players and ask questions and get answers. Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed, man. I mean, I've been blessed to be places and be around people who had a great grasp on our business.
Let's go to John.
Going to try to get another story out of you. Pursuing the Justin track here on, when was it that you decided that this was what I was going to do for my life? I mean, I know when you were younger, I mean, you had to do it because your dad made you. But what point did you say, I want to do this for my life and this is what I'm going to do?
Well, getting cut with the Sixers. I mean, and I had a real good idea I wasn't going to make it anyways. I mean, the team that they had, and I didn't deserve to be there. I was very fortunate to be there, and it was a great learning experience for me. But coming back, when I came back, Coach Garner was very good to me. I came back and my wife's working in the Coliseum. She's selling hot dogs and Cokes. And that's, and I can remember going home after practice or being in the gym, playing with those guys, or, trying to help some of the younger guys, whatever, going home and, she had taken a couple hot dogs home, from the concession stand. And you start to think, man, I better find a job doing something.
What would you have done if you wouldn't have been a basketball coach, you think?
Probably the president of the university.
President of the university. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Seems like a pretty good job. John, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what it would have been something in the sports field. I would think, you look around and you see some of the guys, particularly in the NBA, some guys that are coaching in the NBA, and you look at their backgrounds, they just worked their way in there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. Their background wasn't what a lot of guys' backgrounds are, but they stayed with it, and they kept working at it, and they kept being there, and then they move up, and then they keep working at it, and they move up again. I think I think I would have still been in basketball. I don't know.
Yeah.
In what form, but I think I would have been in basketball.
Back to Greg.
Bob, speaking of the NBA, and you've talked about this a little before, but you had opportunities to coach there. How tempting was it? And ultimately, why'd you decide not to go there and stay in college?
I think relationships. I really thought I could make a much greater impact at the college level than I could in the NBA. And I did. I had great opportunities. I had great opportunities for way more money than what I was making, or probably what I had ever hoped to make. But it's not the same. It's not, I can walk out of practice and feel like we got something done today, and they got better today. I'm not so sure that happens a whole lot in the NBA, and the schedule has a lot to do with that. Don't get me wrong. They travel a lot and they play a lot of games, but the opportunity to work with guys, spend time with guys, and just be part of their maturity it's really kind of fun and exciting.
Justin.
Hey, Coach, I had the opportunity to speak with Coach Gardner a few days ago, and he was kind of telling the story that the year after your GA, and of course, he moves on to Northern Arizona, I think it was, that next year, he was trying to get you to go with him, but he said you weren't having any part of that. Just kind of wondering what the deal was there. Just Arizona, just a different world away, or what was the thinking there?
Yeah, I think pretty much so. And coach was great. I mean, I thought initially what was going to happen was he and Coach Amick would go together, and then Coach Amick, I think, decided that he wanted to be the head coach, and so he went back to Yuma and was the head junior college coach. And I guess I didn't want to go that far away from home.
Yeah.
I loved being in West Virginia. I loved the people in West Virginia, and I wanted to find a way to stay here. And I was fortunate enough to find a way to be able to. I called Chuck Mayshock, and Chuck was for many years a very, very dear friend.
Right.
And someone that I could always count on, a guy I could always bounce things off of. And I called him, and I said to him, I said, I could go to Yuma, Arizona and be an assistant junior college coach, or I could go to Flagstaff, Arizona and be an assistant at a Division I school, you know, or I could, you know, maybe stay here and see what happens. And he said, well, let me talk to Coach Miller.
Right.
And the next thing I know, I can't remember whether I was the non-paid coach or the very lowly paid coach, but I was one of those two. You know, and Coach Miller got me hooked up at the sporting goods store where I could make a little bit of money. And then I think as Coach Miller got more and more comfortable and with me and me being doing more things like a full-time coach rather than a guy who works at Agler Davidson, you know. So and I ended up doing virtually all the scouting. I ended up doing a bunch of recruiting, and you know, I think as you do things and people see that you're doing a good job and you're not afraid to work and, you know, so forth and so on. I mean, you get more responsibility, and I continue to get more responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about, you know, that class, we recruited Clark Kellogg, who was the #1 player in the
Yeah.
country. Recruited Granville Waiters, a 7-footer who had a great career in the NBA and great career in college. We missed on 3 of the best point guards in the country. And I never forget, Coach, it's like, you got to find a point guard. I said, I know where there's one. He's probably in a trailer having dinner with my mom and dad right now. My little brother.
Right.
You know, so, and who was all set to go to Virginia Tech. And I'm like, no, man, you don't need it for a lot of reasons. And reasons that I really believed. And he went to Ohio State. So, you know, I think the more and more that you do, the more faith that people have in your ability to do things, the more they give you to do. And then, you know, I wanted to be a head coach, and the first people asked me to be a head coach was Walsh College, so I went to Walsh. I would have got paid probably 4 times more at Malone if I just waited about 2 or 3 days. But I just wanted to be a head coach, and they gave me the opportunity.
Recruiting your brother, that was
Yeah.
probably the easiest. That was probably your easiest recruiting job, wasn't it?
Well, he trusted me. I can say that. He trusted me. So, yeah, I mean, he had a heck of a career there.
Yeah.
So everything turned out good.
Back to Kevin.
As you've reached a lot of milestones through your career, we've often asked you to reflect on it and, you know, gotten your outlook that you don't look back a lot and don't really think a lot about those things. Privately, though, obviously with some of your friends in the coaching fraternity, this process, you know, sharing some of those stories, reminiscing, things like that, seems like it's an important part of the deal. Is that because that's just a kind of a private thing that you want to keep separate, or there, you know, a few things that you don't want, you know, out there for everybody to read about or hear about?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I'm sitting here today and Roy Williams calls, and Roy and I are throwing barbs at each other, you know, today, you know, and Bill Self called this morning, you know, and obviously Bill's been in the Hall of Fame for a while, and just I talked to him, you know, a good while this morning. You know, it's I guess the word that people use, it's, you know, the coaching fraternity. I think it really is, you know, and when you've done it as long as I've done it, you know, when I was at Walsh College, or probably even when I was at the University of Akron, you know, I didn't feel like I was in that clique, you know. I was still one of those guys down there that, you know, patting on the head saying, no, your day's going to come here soon, boy, you know. And I couldn't wait to, you know, go beat those people that are patting me on the head.
Let's go to Ryan Decker.
Coach, I guess kind of on that point, those people that you just said you were kind of waiting to beat, you were patting on the head. Is that maybe too what might have kept you in the college ranks maybe a little bit longer instead of making the leap to the NBA? To, you know, trying to knock a couple of those people off that were patting you on the head?
I think it was more about relationships than it was anything. Relationships, and I think looking at how long was it going to take me to be a head coach at the NBA level, and how long was it going to take before I got fired at the NBA level, compared to doing really what I knew and what I thought I was pretty good at. And what I enjoyed. I really enjoyed, I realized how much I really enjoyed working with guys and trying to help them get better, have them be able to see the game in the light that you really ought to see it as. And you know, I credit a lot of that to Joe Friz. Joe was a great learner. You know, there were a lot of other guys there that weren't very good learners, but you know, I thought, you know, I felt like I could go to, and I went to Walsh College and they hadn't won in maybe ever. And, you know, a year or two later, we win 34 games and play for the national championship. To me, that's a lot more rewarding than maybe trying to coach guys that don't want to get coached, or coach guys that probably know a whole lot more than you do.
Go to Bob Hertzel.
Yeah, Bob, what is the one trait that's most important in becoming becoming a Hall of Fame coach, number one? And I guess number two, is there a trait that ties all Hall of Fame coaches together?
I think, Bob, everybody has to coach their own personality. I think guys get in trouble when they try to be someone they're not. And I think, you know, as I talk to these other guys that are Hall of Famers, I think the thing that pops in my head is, you know, they're real. They know they don't try to be something that they're not. And what they are is obviously very, very good. So, I've never tried to be anybody other than me.
That's
And,
obvious.
you know, and sometimes, you know, it worked out pretty good some days it didn't work out quite so good. You know, and the thing that I think that I cherish the most is relationships. The relationships that I have with my guys. You know, I just read a book written by somebody you know well.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it, you know, it talks about a lot of things, but at the end of pretty much the end of the writing for each guy, he said what they said, which was, he's a guy we can always trust, or he's the guy who's going to be there for me. And that's what I appreciate. That's what I appreciate. And that's what I've tried to do throughout my career.
Thanks.
A couple more questions. We'll go to Justin and John.
Hey, Coach. Sorry, excuse me. Just kind of looking for your opinion here. You've talked in the past a few times using the analogy of, the perception of you nationally, I guess. The analogy you've used is the old Western, cowboy Westerns, good guys wearing the white hats, bad guys wearing the black hats. This honor, this achievement for you coming up on Saturday, in your opinion, do you think it changes that narrative at all towards you?
That's a hard question to answer without getting in trouble. Justin, I'm extremely proud of whatever I've accomplished, or whatever people think I've accomplished. I know what my guys think about me. I didn't break the rules. I didn't cheat to do it. And you look around at some of those guys that are where I guess I'm headed. They broke a lot of rules trying to get there. And I never did.
And we'll close with John.
I'll close with this. I can't believe you forgot Kelvin Ramsey in that group of Ohio State guys. But usually
We
when
used
you get
to
in the
play
Hall-
2-on-2.
what's that?
I used to play 2-on-2 with Kel. Kel and Jimmy Ellinghausen.
Yeah.
Kelvin and Jimmy Ellinghausen played Bobby Faulkner and I.
Gotcha.
So Bobby wasn't big enough and strong enough to guard Ellinghausen, so I got to guard Ellinghausen, and he had to guard Kelvin.
Bet that turned out well.
Well, which is the only thing being big and slow has ever done for me that's been helpful. I got to guard Ellinghausen rather than Kel.
Yeah. Last one for me. The Hall of Fame is usually at the end of your career, and you're still under contract. You're still coaching. What are the boxes left to check for you, and how excited and enthusiastic are you to start another season? What is this, 41, 42 now, whatever it is for you? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, my goal when I came back here was to win a national championship, and win a national championship for this state. And Jared Calhoun came up with the idea of, why don't we do this, Hugs? Why don't we win a national championship, and let's get a bus, and let's put the national championship on the trophy on the bus, and let's just go from town to town, let the people touch it. Let the people come out and be proud of their team, their state, their university. And we haven't done that yet. So, and I think it'd be the neatest thing in the world. Colin and I used to sit there and say, think about this. People have their radio on. Tony Caridi says, hey, listen, all you people down there in Birch, the bus is going to be here. You're going to be there, and in about 15 minutes, y'all get down to the custard stand down there. You can touch the trophy. What a great thing!
Yeah. Does this team excite you?
Is what?
Does this team excite you? What you got? This is a whole new team.
Well, we turned it over 24 times yesterday, so when they stop turning it over, they might.
Coach, that's all we have for today. Thanks for everyone for joining the conference. And Coach, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.